Hello and welcome to News 9 Digital. I'm Pratibha. Thank you for joining me live today. Well, testing remains the first and, of course, the most important line of defense against COVID-19 until a vaccine becomes accessible to all. While the wait for the vaccine still continues, there is a need for fast, accurate as well as cost-effective tests. And in a proud moment for Bengaluru, a startup incubated at the Indian Institute of Science or IISc has developed an indigenous RT-PCR test kit for accurate and affordable diagnosis of COVID-19. So Equine Biotech has created a test kit that has been approved for use in authorized diagnostic labs by the Indian Council of Medical Research. The test takes about 1.5 hours to, confirm the presence of SARS-CoV-2 in the patient samples. And to talk to us more about it, to give us more details on the same, Professor Utpal Tatu. He's a professor at the Department of Biochemistry in IISc and a scientific advisor at the Equine Biotech. He joins us live. Many thanks for joining us, Professor. Firstly, congratulations. Do tell us more about the test. How long did it take for your team to come up with it, and what really inspired you and your team to develop this test?
Thank you, Ms. Pratibha. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm very happy with the question that you asked. That is, what inspired us to make this foray into developing a diagnostic kit.
Yeah.
It's important because most players today who are trying to develop kits and various other related items which are helpful in diagnosis, drugs, vaccines. Oftentimes the inspiration is really an opportunity. People see that there's an opportunity to sometimes financial, sometimes to become famous, and sometimes also I think out of their scientific motivation, which is all fine.
Okay.
In our case, I think it's a very interesting narrative that I'm very happy to very briefly share with you that
Please.
as a organization at Indian Institute of Science, where I'm a researcher, we have been researching on neglected infectious diseases and emerging infectious diseases for almost 3 decades now.
Okay.
As a result, our research focus has been to understand how infections emerge. And then again, the company that we spun out of Indian Institute of Science, which is called Equine Biotech, which you mentioned briefly, is actually focused on how to deal with these emerging infections, which were not there in the past and which have now appeared because of mutations or because of various other environmental I would say forces that have made viruses change. So that's really where the origin of this whole idea, what we have done is. We've been researching coronaviruses for many years, and particularly coronavirus infections in animals. Interesting part is that we've been doing this even before people had heard of the word COVID.
Yeah.
Even before COVID struck the whole world, we were researching on developing tests for coronavirus because this is a common infection in animals. And that's really, so we were prepared. When COVID struck the world, we were actually ready with a solution in diagnosing it. And that's really where the genesis of this whole idea of developing a kit. It was really not that, hey, there's an opportunity, let's grab the opportunity and let's do something. It was just a natural evolution of what we were doing for decades.
Okay, all right. And there have been so many questions raised as well on the source of the virus, where it came on, and, several research going on regarding the same as well. You weighed in on that. But could you also explain the process of reverse transcription and how the PCR reaction is monitored in real time in the testing kit?
Absolutely. It's interesting now that the word PCR, RT-PCR, all of these are common terms which you hear in newspapers, WhatsApp. Even common people who are probably not even educated have heard of, and that's fantastic in some ways, that people have heard of scientific terms. But oftentimes people don't know what happens in this test. So it's a good opportunity and it's a good question that you asked. Well, PCR is a way of amplifying genetic material from any source. In this case, viral source. So the genetic material of the virus is copied in, if I may say so. It's like a Xerox machine that you take a piece of paper, put it in the Xerox machine, and you make copies again and again and again. So you get multiple copies of the same page that you want to multiply. It's a Xerox at the molecular level. That's what PCR is. What PCR does is to take a piece of DNA from the virus and then copies it again and again and again and again, much like the Xerox machine does for paper. Because of this large number of copies that you've generated now, it becomes easier to detect the virus.
Okay.
What started out as only one copy of the genome has now been multiplied and amplified probably into thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of copies, which are easier to detect by detection methods. And that's really the essence of polymerase chain reaction.
Okay.
Now the prefix RT means reverse transcription or reverse transcriptase based.
Okay.
The reason that you add RT in front of PCR is because viruses like COVID they have RNA genome. So the RNA needs to be first converted into DNA, and only then can we copy it again and again and again, as I described. So the first step is reverse transcription of RNA into DNA, and then you got your Xerox machine in the form of polymerase chain reaction.
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
Professor, thank you so much for breaking it down to us. But, talking about the test, how crucial would you say it is, this testing kit for the fight against the virus as well? I'm sure it's being manufactured as well. Fill us in on the details as well as the cost as it can be expected and how effective it is as well. How sure are we of how effective these tests can be?
Let me comment on it. The test that we've developed has been certified to be 100% specific by the certifying body, which all of us know is Indian Council for Medical Research, ICMR, which has done a wonderful job actually of validating kits before they come out in the market. So they have kept the testing protocol so foolproof.
Okay.
They've made sure that the best and the most accurate tests go in the market. And that's, as you can imagine, it's so important.
So there's no reason
because
to worry.
we cannot afford to go wrong in calling somebody who's negative or positive and vice versa. And that huge responsibility was on the shoulders of ICMR. And imagine in a country like ours with 1.3 billion people and so many companies, so many diagnostic labs. If it was free for all, there would be all kinds of diagnostic kits out there, and it would be very hard to ascertain. So I think we must applaud the efforts made by this government body, the government and the scientific body ICMR, that how they've managed to make sure that the kits which are there in the market are of the highest quality and the most accurate. Our kit is one of them.
Okay.
I would not say that other kits in the market are not good at. I think
because there were some concerns with a few testing kits throwing up false results. So it's extremely crucial to ensure that these testing results are absolutely effective and accurate.
Absolutely. I think that's where I was coming to, Ms. Pratibha. The false positive concerns were actually with another kind of a testing method, which were more of the antibody tests or rapid antigen tests. Those are the places. With RT-PCR, in principle, the chance of false results is very, 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 very low, infinitesimally low.
Okay.
For the reason that it's actually it's designed in such a manner that it should be specific, and given that ICMR has validated them so well, the chance is low. But the problem really lies in the way the tests may be conducted.
Okay.
And again, that brings us back to the problem of huge population, large number of cases we have. And so imagine a simple lab, which is doing testing. It has the best kits in the market, but suddenly it's, loaded with thousands of samples. Thousands of samples with the limited capacity it has. And that's really where oftentimes the problems are, that the accuracy of implementing the test sometimes may be compromised. Again, I think the testing labs around the country are also of very high quality, which again I think is ensured by ICMR. So they have actually made sure that the labs have the basic standard and expertise. But despite that, the large load that many of the labs have makes it hard for them to implement testing protocols with high stringency.
Okay.
And sometimes compromises may happen, but by and far we've done excellently well. I think in testing in India, given the conditions that are there, and all the factors, all the uncertainties that are around us,
Yeah.
I think government of India has done a fantastic job in ramping up testing, and the GOK, of course, needless to say, has been amazing, I think, in what they've done in COVID testing.
Right, and we need to continue doing the same as well. Professor Utpal Tatu, many thanks for joining us. Kudos to you and your team. Congratulations for the testing kits that you have developed. Well, India currently has the second highest number of reported cases with more than 5 million people infected. And the only way of effectively fighting the virus is ramping up testing in the country. And we congratulate the startup for making the tests much more affordable and available to all across the country. Thank you so much for joining us live today. Let me know in the comments as well your thoughts on the subject.